tinanggap ninyo o kaya kinuha ninyo. Pero if you are confused regarding an order coming from the highest authority, ano po ba ang dapat ninyong gawin? Common sense lang po ang tinatanong ko. Di po ba? Sabi ni Mr. Serafica, confused siya dun sa Memorandum Circular number 1. So, when you're confused about an official directive, you in government like us, ano po ang dapat ninyong tamang kilos?
Mr.
Sa dalawa po.
Mr. Sebastian, Mr. Serafica, you are required to answer the query of the Honorable Ako.
In the case of MC1 and MC1, Mr. Chair, when they were having a squabble in SRA, what I did was to ask the legal department of DA to make a clarification. And they did issue a clarification regarding MC1, stating that it did not cover government-owned and controlled corporations. So I issued a memo to SRA recognizing the administration of Administrator Serafica. Despite that, Mr. Chair, the OIC still questioned it. So I again issued a memorandum later when MC3 was issued, finally telling the leadership, the OICs to cease and desist, and strengthening my recognition of Administrator Serafica's leadership, Mr. Chair.
Ginoong Serafica, ano po ang sagot po ninyo?
What I did, Your Honor, we also sought clarification and sent a letter to the Office of the President and to GCG as well.
So in other words, Mr. Serafica, kung titingnan natin, you got clarification insofar as the order of the President was concerned.
With regards to MC1 and MC3, Your Honor?
MC1,
Yes, Your Honor.
how long a time was that?
Actually, the MC3 was the answer, Your Honor. But we did not get any reply from that letter, Your Honor.
Well, do you agree that you did not follow the protocols provided for by your manual insofar as the coming up of sugar orders are concerned?
We submitted the management.
The question Ginoong Serafica ay answerable by yes or no? Kasi kung iniimbestigahan kita sa isang krimen, ang sagot mo lang po ay yes or no. Yung tanong ko po ay masasagot ng simpleng yes or no. Do you agree?
Can I have your question again, Your Honor?
Do you agree that you did not follow the protocols provided for by your manuals insofar as coming up with the sugar orders is concerned?
Well, I followed the protocol, Your Honor.
You followed the protocol, and it is rebutted by your deputy administrator.
As far as referendum is concerned, Your Honor, I submitted the endorsement of the Office of the Administrator to the Office of the Sugar Board, Your Honor.
I asked Attorney Tejeda a while ago whether they came up with a recommendation following the protocols. He said no, insofar as sugar order number 4 is concerned. But in sugar order number 3, you got the recommendation. Why is it, Ginoong Serafica, hindi mo kinuha yung recommendation ng management o yung deputy administrator dito pa sa sugar order number 4?
As I said,
Bakit hindi po nyo kinuha? Samantalang sa katatapos lang na sugar order number 3, kinuha po ninyo.
as I said earlier, the dynamics in the office has changed when MC1 was invoked by the 3 deputies and the legal manager of SRA, Your Honor.
And you interpreted by yourself the meaning of Memorandum Circular Number 1. You took that upon yourself.
I did not take into consideration MC1, Your Honor, because I felt that I was on holdover capacity. I should not be just set aside by the three deputies who were invoking on MC1, Your Honor.
And when MC1, shall we say, resulted, insofar as your mind is concerned or your thinking is concerned, merong mga change. Hindi ba dapat nagtanong ka rin? Ano dapat?
Yes, I know, Your Honor. Nagtanong po ako. In fact, I was always in touch with the DA officials because I do not want to be charged of abandoning my position, Your Honor.
Hindi ko naman sinasabi na inabandon mo eh. Ang tinatanong ko rito, sinunod mo ba yung dapat na protocols? Hindi po ba? Umiiwas ka eh. Alam mo, Mr. Serafica, ako po yung investigador ng buong buhay ko sa gobyerno eh. Criminal and administrative. Doon pa lang sa pag-iiwas mo, nagri-ring na dito sa utak ko eh, na umiiwas ka. Di po ba? Pag sinasagot mo yung tanong ko na ang tanong ay answerable by yes or no, tapos ang haba ng sagot mo, eh, hindi po maganda sa isang investigador yon. Ano po? Kaya, yung tanong ko lang po is, did you follow your manual? You said, yes. Naguluhan ka lang sa Memorandum Circular Number 1. Umiiwas ka eh. Ang tanong ko lang, did you follow the protocols? Even without MC number 1, sinunod mo ba yung protocol? Yes or no?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. Kanina pa dapat yun ang sagot eh.
Actually, yun ang hinihintay ko pong sagot. Yun po ang una kong tanong sa iyo nung bago po ako sumalang. Thank you so much, Mr. Congressman Akop, and thank you also for giving that answer to us.
Thank you. Yun pong plano na pag-import ng sugar started in September 2021, which would last up to August 2022. Tama po ba?
Yung inangkat po natin, Your Honor, is based on data as also under the
Uulitin ko. Sagutin po ninyo yung sagot ko directly. Ang tanong ko po sa inyo, yung pong plano ninyo ng pang-import ng sugar started or you planned it from September 2021 to August 2022.
Ano po yung tanong, Your Honor?
Pangatlo. Ulit. Yung plano ninyong pag-import ng sugar started in September 2021 and would last up to August 2022. Tama po ba?
There was no plan to import in early September 2021, Your Honor.
When did you first initiate yung pag-import ng sugar under Sugar Order Number 3?
January po, early January. After Odette.
January. Atin. Ito yung na may dalawang
PRO po.
TRO. Ang records ko is it started February 2022. That was the time you approved Sugar Order Number 3. Tama?
Yeah, February po.
And you followed all the protocols. It was stymied and implemented in May of 2022. Tama?
Opo.
Yes. Dahil according to the Honorable Rodante Marcoleta, you disregarded the temporary restraining orders issued by the two courts in Negros. Tama rin po.
Actually, Your Honor, SRA did not disregard the order of the court. When the TRO came out, we immediately sent a memo circular to all applicants that the application will be postponed until such time the legal issues will be resolved, Your Honor.
But you proceeded with the importation, despite the existence of temporary restraining orders.
Actually, Your Honor, we were guided with the...
No. You answer my question. You proceeded. Did you proceed? Sagutin mo muna yun.
Yes, we
bago
did.
ka mag-explain sa akin.
Yes, we did proceed, Your Honor.
Yes, you proceeded.
Yes,
Despite the existence of the temporary restraining orders.
yes,
Because of the opinion of your government corporate counsel.
yes po.
Yes. So, kung kayo po ay mabibigyan order ng korte pala, hindi nyo susundin pag sinabi ng corporate counsel na hindi nyo dapat sundin. Is that what you're trying to tell this august body or the members of this committee?
Well, we relied on the legal advice or legal opinion of the OGCC, Your Honor. And so when they...
That is what you're trying to tell us. That the opinion of the Office of the Government Corporate Counsel, which you would follow, rather than the order of the court. That is what you are trying to tell this august body. Di po ba?
That is exactly what happened, Your Honor.
Umiiwas ka nga. Madam Chair, mahirap imbestigahan yung paiwas ng paiwas eh. Pero I would just like to make my conclusion. The signs are there na hindi tama talaga yung sugar order number 4. It was convened by somebody who is not authorized to do so. It did not follow the protocols. And as a matter of fact, doon sa sugar order number 4, hindi nila inilagay yung performance bond to be paid by participants in order to protect the government. So the signs are there, Madam Chair, na hindi tama ito. And I think the President did right not to, shall we say, honor this. And so far as sugar order number 4 is concerned, maraming salamat to, Mr. Chair.
Thank
Madam
you so
Chair.
much, Congressman Acop. It's a very well said, and we're on the same line. So at least po, medyo kahit paano po nakikita niyo po kung saan po kami talaga pumupunta at hindi ho kami dito po sa mababang kapulungan, hindi ho kami dito nagpapaligoy-ligoy bagkus tutumbukin na po natin para hindi na rin ho masyadong mahaba pagdating po sa public accountability. Now we'd like to call on Congressman Lee to be the next interpellator. Congressman Lee, you're now recognized.
Magandang hapon po, Madam Chair. Actually, marami akong itatanong sana, kaya lang because of time constraint, tsaka marami na rin nasagot kanina nung nagtatanong si Honorable Barsaga. Napakagaling po ng kanyang questioning. So marami na rin akong nalinawan. Meron na lang naiwan na I will reserve na lang dun sa next hearing siguro yung ibang question, Madam Chair. No? Meron lang akong gustong tanungin actually. Kanina kasi nalilito ako kung it seems meron talagang shortage, di ba? So ilan ba talaga yung shortage natin no? Na sa asukal? No? Kasi iba-iba yung nababasa ko, iba-iba yung lumalabas. Merong 150,000, meron akong nabasa, sabi naman ng mga Coca-Cola and yung mga institutional, 450,000 daw yung kailangan. No? And then meron akong nakitang isang report, galing naman ito sa US Department of Agriculture na nagsasabi for marketing year 2023 daw, which starts September 2022 up to August 2023, ang production daw ng ating sugar ay babagsak to 2 million metric tons. And then while our consumptions will remain at 2.3 million metric tons. So lumalabas ito, 300,000 metric tons ang kulang. Ito bang report na to ng USDA ay nabavalidate ng ating Department of Agriculture o ng ating SRA? Ito ba ay nagsasangguni sa inyo? At ilan ba talaga yung sinasabi nating kakulangan talaga sa ating asukal? Mr. Serafica, yes.
Actually, yung sinasabi po ng USDA, Your Honor, yung estimate natin ng production mas baba pa ng 2 million for next cropping dahil po ng residual effect ng bagyo at saka yung mga tag-ulan sa Mindanao at saka sa Kabisayaan po. It will be lower than 2 million. at saka yung demand na sinasabi nila na 2.3, more or less that is the figure that have been for the past 5 years, more or less nasa 2.1 to 2.2 ganyan yung ano natin, yung demand po.
So itong report na to na-validate with you ito?
Well, I do not know now, but before, it was always validated by our crop estimates section of the RD&E.
So itong shortage na to, sabi mo kanina, yung mga stakeholders na kukonsulta, no, yung mga sila, mga UNIFED, CONFED, mga NFSP, okay ba sila, comfortable ba sila dito sa figure na to na kailangan na nagsasabi 300,000 metric tons talaga yung kakulangan? O meron
Actually,
silang ibang rekomendasyon kung ilan ba?
22.
yung ano nila, Your Honor, sila mismo nakikita nila ngayon yun ang dapat natin ipa-import po. Kasi yun ang nakikita nila ng kulang kasi mayroon din silang mga sariling datos, mayroong ibang mga stakeholders that they have their own database, like for example PSMA and CONFED, they maintain their own database at tumutugma naman sa mga datos po ng SRA. Kaya nga ito sila lahat, parang unanimous sila na yung dapat katin is itong volume na to, 300,000 metric tons, just to fill the gap of the shortage hanggang bagong umabot na mag-peak yung production po ng sugar milling po.
So just for the record, no, Mr. Chair, gusto ko lang malaman, gusto ko lang i-state, ang talagang sinasabi na shortage natin at kailangan nating iangkat ay 300 metric tons. Tama po ba?
Tama po.
Okay. Ang next question ko actually doon sa BOC, nandito ba yung BOC? Okay. Di ba nagkaroon ng raid sa mga warehouses, no? Nabasa ko sa newspaper, no, may mga raid sa warehouses. Meron na ba tayong result sa investigation na to kung itong mga na-raid na to sa warehouses na to, una, ito ba ay local o imported sugar? Pangalawa, ito ba ay hinord ba talaga o ano ba talaga ito?
Madam Chair. May I answer the question?
Yes, Deputy Commissioner De Buco, you're now recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Una-una po sir, ang mga na-raid, meron pa kaming nakitang mga local sugar at meron ding imported. So during the operation, sir, we were joined by representatives of the SRA and the DTI. So as far as hoarding is concerned, mandate po nila ng DTI at saka SRA yun. So sila po nagde-determine kung may hoarding po talaga. So as to the result po, still we are awaiting for the final report by the raiding teams po.
So wala pa, no? Hindi pa alam kung...
Hindi po talaga official.
Hindi,
because they are given 15 days to produce documents, Your Honor.
kasi ang next question ko sana is, ito bang mga asukal na to na nakatago sa warehouse, ito ba ay maire-release para kahit papano partially maibsan yung shortage na sinasabi natin? Maire-release na ba agad-agad ito sa merkado ngayon or ihintayin pa or nakatago pa rin ito?
Yes, Your Honor. Actually, Your Honor, sugar being perishable item, pwede po nating i-dispose yun. In fact, Madam Chair, this morning po, our commissioner was supposed to be here but he was called sa Malacanang for a meeting in order to talk about the disposal of those items.
So ibig sabihin na, sir, ilalas na ito sa merkado, no, para makasagot sa shortage na sinasabi natin ngayon.
Yes po, Your Honor. Hindi ko lang po alam kung anong napag-usapan kanina nila doon sa may but probably most likely yan po ang pinag-usapan, Your Honor.
Last questions. Meron pa ba kayong gagawin ng mga ganitong raid?
Yes po. In fact, as we speak, teams are still conducting mga actually we call it visitorial, implementing our visitorial powers, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will just like to reserve my other questions in our next committee hearing.
Thank you so
Mr.
much,
Chair, Madam
Congressman
Chair.
Lee, for that questions and queries, and thank you also Deputy Commissioner De Buyo for answering straight. Kasi yung mahalaga sa amin, yung diretso na lang ang sagot. So now we would like to call on Congressman J.J. Suarez for his interpellation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Limang oras na tayo nag-aantay. My question will be directed to Yusek Sebastian, Serafica. Yusek Sebastian, former Yusek, how long have you been with the DA prior to your resignation?
As I have said, Mr. Chair, I rejoined the Department of Agriculture in January 2021.
January 2021. Prior to joining the Department of Agriculture, what other government posts did you hold?
Before I left in 2008, Mr. Chair, I was the Executive Director of the Philippine Rice Research Institute. And I was also before that, from 1983, after graduation, I already joined the government, tobacco, and then going to rice. I rose from the rank, Mr. Chair.
Because after your resignation, social media was flooded with all sorts of praises about you and about how you conduct yourself, about your reputation as an individual and as a professional, correct?
I was more bashed, I think, Mr. Chair, than praise. There was a lot of bashing and innuendos of who I am, Mr. Chair, and I was really deeply saddened and still hurting, Mr.
Okay.
Chair.
So, well, now let's get to the details. Mr. Yusek Sebastian, sa tagal-tagal mo na sa DA at sa iba't ibang mga posisyon pang hinawakan mo, pagpasok ng July 15, binigyan ka ng kapangyarihan para maglingkod bilang Undersecretary for Operations. Tama?
That's correct, Mr. Chair.
Bilang Undersecretary for Operations, ano-ano ang mga ginampanan mong mga responsibilidad?
In addition, I was as the Undersecretary for Operation, I basically supervise the implementation of all the programs of the department.
Did you issue any memos? Did you issue any advisories? Did you sign any documents?
I signed, I basically ran the day-to-day operation of the Department of Agriculture, Mr. Chair. So I issued memorandum, appointments, as allowed by the July 15 memo, Mr. Chair. I performed most of those duties, Mr. Chair.
And you would often find yourself reporting to the executive department, specifically Malacanang, regarding the day-to-day activities of the Department of Agriculture, given that wala pa tayong Secretary of Agriculture and our Secretary of Agriculture now is none other than President Bongbong Marcos, correct?
We have meetings with the President, Mr. Chair, that is scheduled every other week. And sometimes I was also called to report to Malacanang if there are issues. Numerous times, Mr.
Correct.
Chair.
August 1, Mr. Serafica, you explained that the skyrocketing prices of sugar was caused by the delayed implementation of Sugar Order Number 3. Is this correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And as early as July 27, July 21, meron na kayong sugar briefer na dito nakasaad na talagang kinakailangan mag-import ng 300,000 metric tons. Correct?
That's from the DA, Your Honor.
This is from whom?
From the DA.
Okay, yeah. From the DA.
Yeah.
So dito, sinasabi nyo na kailangan.
Yeah.
August 5, an exchange of emails happened between Yusek Sebastian, Administrator Serafica. What were these emails all about?
Number one, this was the endorsement.
Can you Talk a little bit louder to the mic.
This was the endorsement of the importation plan addressed to the DA because we were given a deadline to submit. So it was submitted in the afternoon of August 5
To the DA.
to the DA
And to who else?
and to the office of the executive secretary who requested for an advance copy.
Okay, so the copy was sent to the DA, received by who
By-
received it?
It was through email, Your
Yeah,
Honor.
I know. You sent the email. Who received it? It was addressed to whom?
To the office of the DA secretary and copy furnished also Yusek Sebastian then.
So an email goes to Yusek Sebastian and another to Malacanang, correct?
It was a separate email, direct, not.
It was a different email.
Yes.
But what did the email to Yusek Sebastian contain, and what did the email to Malacanang contain?
The same.
The same content.
The same content.
And what was the content?
It was endorsing to the DA our importation plan.
And that was to import 300,000 metric tons.
Yes,
Correct?
Your Honor.
Ano po ang naging sagot niyo doon, Yusek Sebastian?
Mr. Chair, the email of Administrator Sarapica states that informs me that he was called to Malacanang yesterday, that means August 4, and was instructed by the President to prepare a sugar importation program as soon as possible.
Hold that thought.
And he attached
Hold that thought.
the document.
So you're saying, Engineer Sarafica, the President instructed you,
Yes, Your Honor.
President Bongbong Marcos instructed you to prepare an importation plan.
Yes, Your Honor.
Program.
Importation
Program.
program.
Okay. So ano pa lang yon? Prepare lang. He's not telling you to go ahead. He's not telling you that the importation or whatever, just a plan. Because I used to be a governor of Quezon Province for 9 years. I tell my department heads to present all sorts of plans. But that plan is not the sole how do you say, I don't depend on that plan alone when I come to the decisions that I make. So there are other factors that are involved. So you can continue. So to prepare that plan. Tapos, kinabukasan, ginawa mo yung plano, diniretso mo kay Sebastian. Correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Yusek Sebastian, what did you do with that plan?
After the follow-up of Administrator Sarapica in my office in the afternoon, Mr. Chair, I drafted the memo to the President, attaching the draft SO4 and also explaining in that memo to the President that SRA has come up with a importation program with the following allocation of 300,000 metric tons.
Okay, hold that thought. Engineer Serafica, you said you forwarded an email to Malacanang. Did Malacanang reply to your email?
No, Your Honor.
What about you? No.
No.
Walang reply. Sa'yo, Yusek Sebastian. Sa email mo.
No reply.
So wala
Except
ring reply.
acknowledgement, Mr. Chair.
Basta receive. Okay. So in other words, no reply. And then what happened next was you proceeded with a referendum wherein SRA officials headed by Yusek Sebastian voted in the affirmative to import 300,000 metric tons. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So in the absence of the approval of the chairman of SRA, our Secretary of Agriculture, President Bongbong Marcos, without his approval, you proceeded to having a referendum and thereby approving the importation of 300,000 metric tons. Correct?
Correct, Your Honor.
Correct?
Yes.
Tama. At hindi lang yon, hindi pati alam ng mga deputy ninyo na meron palang SR4. So ang lumalabas, kayo-kayo lang ang may alam. Kasi yung mga deputy ninyo sa opisina ninyo, hindi alam na meron palang ganon. Tama ba ang pagkaintindi ko?
Yes, Your Honor.
Correct? Correct? Now my question, your Madam Chairman and Chairwoman. Saan kayo kumuha ng lakas ng loob?
Mr. Chair,
Una-una,
Mr. Chair, can I ask?
We'd
Una-una-
like first to finish Congressman JJ Suarez before you
Una-una.
to be recognized.
may email na kayo, hindi kayo sinagot. Pangalawa, ang ginawa ninyo, sige, mag-referendum na lang tayo. Tignan natin yung boto ng mga members natin. Umuo sila. Kaso wag natin ipaalam sa management ng SRA. Kaso lang biglang lumabas, nagkaroon ng SRA 4 whereby you are to import, the country is to import 300,000 metric tons. So I find it absolutely out of this world, Madam Chair, na officials within the bureaucracy will have the gall to do this. Ngayon, ang tanong, yung 300,000 metric tons na yun, na asukal, anong presyo nun? Sino makakapagbigay ng sagot? What is the cost of those 300,000 metric tons?
Anybody from the, okay. Mr. Lobregat, are we right? Tama po ba?
I am Pablo Lobregat, President of the Philippine Millers Association. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I think I know your son too.
Oh, very good. I've heard your name mentioned many times. To answer this question on prices, when an importation is allowed or given, an order is given, it is allocated to whoever is is qualified to import, right? And it's up to them to go out into the market and get the best price that they can, right? So there is not one price. If somebody anticipated, for example, 2 months before that there was going to be an importation because he had his ear on the ground and he felt that there was going to be a shortage, then he might have gotten a better price than if he were to wait until the order was given.
Ballpark, more or less.
Today, from what I understand, I asked and they said it's about $690 per ton of refined.
$609,
$90
$90 for every
Yes.
ton
per ton of refined sugar.
refined sugar. So more or less 600,000 metric tons would cost around
300.
300,000 metric tons would cost around.
I don't have a calculator. I mean,
Ma'am,
Yes, I'm doing it. How much is it? 6.9.
690
$690
US
So
dollars.
56 times 600,000, 300,000.
It's 11 billion. Tama ba?
Could be.
11
it's-
billion.
Ah, okay. Before in the report, it was only 9 billion.
So
Like
in
I-
other words,
Mr. Chairman, it depends. If you bought that sugar, and this is why I will explain in my presentation why there was a need for sugar order number 3, and because of the delay of sugar number 3,
I'll get to that.
the
I'll get to
original
that.
the original
Yes,
prices were
We just
canceled.
have to answer first the query
I'll
of the
get that.
honorable congressman
I'll
on
get to
on
that.
what is the amount of that 300,000 metric tons.
So
what is
in
the
other
value?
words, Madam Chair,
Yes.
ang laking
Kong.
halaga. So ito ulit ang tanong ko, Yusek Sebastian. Matagal ka na pong opisyal. Alam mo kung ano ang magiging repercussions, consequences ng anumang desisyon na gagawin mo. Ang hindi ko pa rin matanto sa isip ko, ipipirma mo pa yung presidente, hindi ka nga nakakuha ng approval sa kanya. So ang tanong ko, saan po kayo kumuha at humugot ng lakas ng loob para gawin yung ginawa ninyo? Because it seems, before you answer that question, that 300,000 metric tons was wrong. Because after your act, after you resigned, the president proceeded with consulting industry players, stakeholders, and other sugar planters, and then realized hindi pala 300,000 ang kailangan natin i-import, 150,000 lang pala. At hindi lang pala 150,000 ang kailangan natin ma-import, mapapababa pa natin yung presyo ng asukal. So ang tanong ko sa inyo, saan nyo nakuha ang lakas ng loob para gawin yon?
Can I answer now, Madam
Okay,
Chair?
Mr. Sebastian, you're now recognized, and I just hope you just answer it very briefly because we're running of time, so we could entertain other interpollators. Yes,
Madam Chair, Congressman JJ,
you know.
as you have mentioned, my background is basically on the technical side. And the strength that the authority that I use is that memo on July 15, 2022. And considering the data that has been presented and analysis that had been presented, that the sugar supply is really very low, and there is an impending there's already a very high price of sugar, and the impending shortage of sugar in the coming months, and all data showed that the deficit, the required sugar supply shortage is even more than the 300,000 that is being proposed. And considering the urgency of the matter, which the president also recognized during our meetings, the president recognized that we need to do something on that sugar supply shortage.
Sorry, I just
Yeah.
the congressman just wanted to know, saan nyo po nakuha ang lakas ng loob na ipirma ang Pangulo? We
No,
understand fully what you're saying. Paulit-ulit
The
po tayo.
deficit,
I
the
did not
required,
sign for the
sugar,
president.
I signed for the secretary, Madam Chair.
But the secretary is the president.
Yes, Madam Chair, but under memo of July 15, I was given that delegation of authorities to sit ex officio as ex officio chair of the SRA
Madam Chair,
board,
you know,
Madam Chair.
Yes,
it's
okay.
obviously, there's something that's being hidden. Can I just get back to the deputy
Madam
administrator?
Chair.
I didn't get your name.
Attorney Tejeda, Your Honor.
Attorney
Tejeda.
Tejeda.
Yes, Your Honor.
So you mentioned earlier you had no clue, no idea, no notion of sugar order number 4.
No official knowledge, Your Honor.
No
because
official
we
knowledge.
heard it from some stakeholders who we interact regularly with.
So yun yung hindi ko rin ma-reconcile, Madam Chair. Sa isang bagay na napakahalaga, na napakalaki, na sobrang importante, na bilyong piso ang pinag-uusapan natin, ni mismo yung management ng SRA walang kamuang-muang na meron palang ilalabas na sugar order. Now, can you explain to me, Engineer Serafica, bakit hindi nila alam? Was it purposely, on purpose, that the rest of management be kept out of the loop?
Actually, Your Honor, I answered this earlier. I was a victim of MC1, meaning they
Lahat na tayo, biktima eh. Biktima ng MC1.
so
Biktima ng...
At saka hindi naintindihan ng mga tao
Eh, paano-
ng MC1 at MC3. Memorandum circular po iyon.
paano
sa
yung
mga
biktima
nakaupo.
ng mamamayan ng mataas na presyo ng asukal? Paano naman sila?
So there was a breach of trust within the office, Mr. Chair, and I did not want that this plan will go. They will get the plan before it gets to the president, Your Honor. That is only my reason.
No. I think that's where we all disagree. The process is, and correct me if I'm wrong, you will do a consultation with all the stakeholders, planters, millers, retailers, industry players, and then from there, you will analyze all the data that is in front of you. After you do your analysis, you will work as an administration, come up with the proper recommendation, form the board, and move from there. I think that's the right way to do it. Now, question, Madam Chair, before I wrap up, dahil
Yes.
marami pa yata magtatanong. Doon sa ginawa ninyong board meeting para aprubahan yung SRA4, sino nag-approve ng agenda?
I submitted agenda to the Office of the Sugar Board, Your Honor.
Office of the
Sugar Board.
Sugar Board. Who approved it?
The Office of the Sugar Board.
No, who? No.
Who?
The office is not a person. I'm asking who approved it?
Meaning the endorsement to the Sugar Board. I did, Your Honor.
The agenda. Who
Yes.
approved? You said you referred it to the Sugar Board.
The agenda.
The
of
agenda.
referendum.
Who approved it?
The agenda, Your Honor.
Yes.
I did, Your Honor.
So you sent it to yourself?
No, what I'm trying to say is the agenda on the matter for referendum, I endorse it to the Sugar Board with a summary briefer.
Kasi, okay, Engineer Serafica, like, our two excellent chairperson of agriculture and good government, sila nag-approve ng agenda ng committee bago namin talakayan at pag-usapan dito. So, ang tanong ko sa inyo, nagkaroon ng board meeting ang SRA para aprubahan ang SR4. Sino ang nag-approve ng agenda ng meeting?
What I did, Your Honor, was to transmit the agenda to the Office of the Sugar Board.
Congressman Barsaga, you may want to...
Yes, who are the members of the Sugar Board?
Myself,
Oh,
the two board members, and the ex officio
Who's the
Chair.
chairman?
ex officio chairman is the DA
The
secretary.
president itself.
Okay.
With the president.
Did the chairman approve the agenda?
In this case, no.
No. The
That's
chairman did
exactly-
not approve the agenda. The chairman had no idea that the board was going to convene, because if he knew, he would have known what was on the agenda. Yes, Congressman Bersaga.
was there an actual convening of the Sugar Board?
No, Your Honor. It
None.
was by way of referendum.
Wala rin, hindi rin nag-convene.
Actually, there was none at all because it is actually the president of the country as acting ex officio of the SRA. So it is actually the chairman who should be calling for the convening of the board. So they all relate to on referendum and emails.
Precisely, Madam Chair. That's why you're the chairman of the Committee on Good Government.
So what
Because
is
you
the
know how
agenda?
things-
Ano ba ang nasa agenda, Mr. Serafica?
Kasi Boss PD, if I may interrupt lang. Ako, ayoko naman sabihin na nag-ako sa ako or anything. Parang lumalabas kailan ang nag-usap eh. Kasi ni tao nyo, hindi alam eh. Alam nyo ba? Hindi nyo alam. Parang kayong dalawa lang yata dito eh. Ang nagkasundo na gagawin natin to, mamadaliin natin to, gagawa tayo ng importation plan. So that's where that is where my fear lies, Madam Chair. Because these are top officials of our bureaucracy. Buti na lang nakita ng presidente kagad. At buti na lang pinatigil ng presidente. Dahil kung hindi pinatigil ng presidente at pumasok yung 300,000 metric tons na yan, siguradong ang laki na naman ng tama sa mga magsasaka natin. Last question, Madam Chair, before I leave.
Okay. Since you waited for so long, your wish is granted.
Sa 35 years yung buhay SRA, gumanda ba ang buhay na magsasakang tubo?
Lots of challenges, Your Honor.
Yes or no? Gumanda ba ang buhay na magsasakang tubo?
No.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Pupunta na ako sa session hall. Baka ako ng plenary team.
Madam Chair, very quick lang, Madam Chair, clarification lang.
Thank you so much. Hold on, Congressman Lee. We'd like to thank, of course, Congressman J.J. Suarez for a very, very brief questions, and it has been clear to us. Congressman Lee, you may now have the floor.
Very quick lang. Kasi kanina pinaklaro ko na, di ba, sabi nyo 300,000 metric tons yung kailangan. Narinig ko kay Kong Suarez sinabi na Kong JJ na pwedeng ang babaan pa, and then narinig ko kay Yusek Leo na in fact mas mataas pa daw yung kailangan. The reason why I want it clear, Madam Chair, is kailangan alam natin lahat, no, kung ilan talaga yung kailangan, no. And I've quoted yung sa USDA na report also saying na 300,000 metric tons, no. Kasi para maiwasan natin yung mga nagkakaroon ng misdeclaration, yung naririnig nating dobleng paggamit ng mga importation permits, yung mga ganon, so that when we know na 300,000 lang talaga yung kailangan natin, nandun lahat tayo nakabantay na 300,000. So ang tanong ko ulit, for the record, ilan po talaga, Yusek, ang kailangan natin, no, na ungkatin?
Can I answer, Madam Chair?
Yes, you are recognized, Mr. Sebastian.
Yeah, Madam
Then
Chair.
Congressman Yulo, will you be
Yeah.
the next?
Just to give you some accounting, Mr. Chair, the total demand for raw sugar, Mr. Chair, is 1.994 million metric tons. That's for the demand. And the supply that we have is only, this is for 2022, the year 2022, Mr. Chair. And for the supply, the local supply, local production is only 1.782 million metric tons. So that means we have a deficit of 212,000 metric tons for raw sugar.
For the refined,
For the refined sugar, Madam Chair, the total demand is 1.272 million metric tons, and the supply is only 732,000 metric tons. So we have a deficit of 540,000 metric tons. With SO number 3, we are, the total arrival is already 186,000 metric tons, and the remaining stock as of August 7, Mr. Chair, is 35,000 metric tons. So that means we still have a deficit of 319,000 metric tons. And you add the raw sugar deficit of 68,000 metric tons, that will be about 3.87 thousand metric tons, Mr. Chair. Now, that is the year-end deficit, Mr. Chair. But if you look at the running total within the year, because the available supply is not the same all the year, when you look at the raw sugar, Mr. Chair, we have almost zero production in July. We have some production in August, and then a little production in September, going up to October, Mr. Chair. So if you look at the actual deficit for raw sugar, it's about, between now and October, it's about 212,000 metric tons, Mr. Chair. So that is the real thing. When it comes to refined sugar, Mr. Chair, that's what we are saying, 319,000 metric tons up to December, Mr. Chair.
This morning I read that two sugar miller in Negros have agreed on mag-mill ng earlier, no. In fact, this August magsisimula na sila instead of the normal October. Yun ba na consider na yon, na production na yon?
Even if you consider the early milling, Mr. Chair, the deficit will still be big, because if you look at the milling at this time, Mr. Chair, when it is very cloudy or rainy, the sugar recovery is actually very low, because it contains a lot of water. But if the weather is sunnier, then the yield will be higher. So
okay.
even considering the earlier milling, still the deficit is very big, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Thank you
Madam
so
Chair,
much.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much, Congressman Lee. We'd like to call on Congressman Yulo. Thank you so much for waiting, and it's now you have now the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chairman. Going back to sugar order number 3, Administrator Serapika, one of the whereas clause states, and I read into the records, SRA received instructions from the Department of Agriculture to temper the current level of high local prices. May we know for the record, who from the Department of Agriculture did you receive instructions?
May I have your question again, Your Honor?
In the whereas clause of sugar order number 3, it reads, SRA received instructions from the Department of Agriculture to temper the current level of high local sugar prices. So may we know for the record, from whom did you receive such instructions?
Well, from the DA Secretary then.
Now going back to sugar order number 3, we've been hearing about shortage and the like, especially on refined sugar. And then the allegation is that the said program was stymied because of the so-called temporary restraining order. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, for the record, would you confirm that there is still about 125 or 130,000 metric tons languishing in the warehouses right now?
Maybe the Deputy Administrator should answer that, Your Honor. I'm not privy to the records.
Madam
anymore.
Chair, can we recognize the Deputy Administrator?
Yes,
Attorney
Attorney
Tejeda,
Tejeda, you're
Yes,
now
sir.
recognized.
may I know the question again, Mr. Chair?
There were allegations of shortage, and one of the reasons for sugar order number 3 was supposedly the shortage of refined sugar. How true is it that there is about 120 plus thousand metric tons languishing in the bodegas right now, which is available for industrial users? Do you
As of-
confirm that?
Yes, as of our monitoring as of August 14, there are actually 94,000 metric tons of refined sugar under SO3, which were already reclassified and ready for utilization, Mr. Chair.
In short, Madam Chair, is this ready to be released to the industrial users?
When we say they are already reclassified, they can already use it under SO3 for their products under SO3.
As such, it's their choice whether they want it released right now or later. Correct.
They are not precluded from planning their product, the use of their product, as long as they don't violate any provisions of SO3, namely that they cannot sell it in the local market.
Did you hear about that press release recently about 3 big soda companies claiming of a shortage of 450,000 metric tons? Did you come across that news article?
That news article, I'm not familiar, but I am privy to the fact that these 3 huge carbonated soft drinks companies have been communicating also with the Office of the Deputy Administrator, claiming that they have shortage indeed of their product or their supply, I mean.
For the record, Mr. Deputy Administrator, would you confirm that Pepsi Cola Products Philippines Incorporated still has 9,396 metric tons in its bodega?
If that's under SO3, Mr.
That's
Chair,
correct, under SO3.
yes, they have a huge supply still in their bodegas.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Administrator. In short, Pepsi still has available almost 180,000 bags in their bodegas. Is that correct?
That would be correct, and as well as the other industrials that because their shipments comes in trans, that's why they're covered by respective clearances.
Okay, thank you. To the Administrator, what exactly was the word used? Plan or program?
Importation plan. Importation program.
So the instruction was for you to prepare an importation program or for you to prepare an importation plan?
May we request, okay, Mr. Serafica to answer, Engineer Serafica to answer that?
The instructions was to you to prepare an importation program.
Okay.
Program, hindi plan. So,
Program.
program. Okay.
Now going back to SO4, in SO3, by the way, you had a section for performance band. Is that correct? Mr. Administrator Serapica?
I do not have a copy of SO3, Your Honor.
SO3.
SO3.
I'll give you a copy right now.
Comsec, can you give
Baka si Deputy Administrator, you may be familiar with SO3. Baka you could answer the query of the Honorable Yulo.
I have my copy, Your Honor.
Wala siyang copy.
you don't know that there is a performance or security band or a cash band once you are an accredited importer?
Yes, there is a performance band,
Okay.
Madam Chair.
And
So
would
that
you
should be the answer. Yes.
and would you agree that the function of the performance band is to ensure faithful compliance to the provisions of the sugar order?
Yes, Your Honor.
Is the performance band also present in SO4?
No, Your Honor.
May you, for the record, can you please tell the honorable committee why the performance band was deleted from sugar order number 4?
It was a draft program subject to approval of the members of the board. And we recommend that to take away the performance band so it will not be an additional cost to qualified importers, Your Honor.
Isn't that to the disadvantage of the government and to the advantage of the importers?
It will be a policy on the matter of the sugar board to make necessary actions on these importers should they violate any
CJ, sobrang dilim ba?
importation
Wala kasi
policies.
kaming kuryente.
So who was the
Naka-flashlight lang ako.
original idea of deleting the performance band?
Sorry,
Sobrang
Your Honor.
dilim.
Who came out with the idea of deleting the performance band?
I did, Your Honor.
Let me go to the reclassification of sugar from Class C to Class B. Is that present in sugar order number 3?
To expedite the release of the reclassification, our draft there was to facilitate and fast track the release that the board will authorize the administrator subject to the weekly report to the chair and to the sugar board.
So the person to reclassify sugar under SO3 is the sugar board. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Under sugar order number 4, it was delegated to the administrator himself. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, did you ever consult any of the lawyers from SRA whether this is allowed under the law?
As I said, Your Honor, there was that breach of trust in the office. And I did not have the comfort of asking their legal opinion on the matter.
I think this is
Pwede,
a big problem because what we're having is a delegated authority. And I don't think you can delegate it further to yourself.
Commute na muna niyan. Hindi ko marinig kasi
So
si
maybe
Sir
that
Jun.
would have been
Narinig mo ba ako?
solved or resolved if you had asked the questions from your legal department.
Malinaw ba ako? Or wala? Wala kasi kaming kuryente.
That will be all for.
Thank you so much.
you.
It's just timing that you already
Ano si
exceeded
Mel
your time. But it was a very, very good
Pero
questions
okay
and
lang
query.
naman.
It
Ma,
shed
huwag ka
light
lang
sa all
gagawin
sa
kasi
lahat
nga,
po ng
House
mga
ata eh.
nag-iisip at sa mga nanonood
yun
sa
na
atin.
yung ano.
So I'd like to call on
Nakikita ko kung
Congresswoman
ano
Luistro
itsura eh.
for, thank you so much ma'am for waiting. You are now duly
Wala
recognized.
na, pinatay na ni
Good
CJ
afternoon,
Basa.
distinguished
Ako,
colleagues,
okay lang
and of
ako dyan,
course to
okay
our
lang.
guests from the DA and the SRA and the BOC. It's actually worth waiting
Okay
because
lang ako,
most
Diyos.
of my questions have been answered
CJ?
already during my colleagues' interpellations. This is more of a manifestation, Madam Chair. I wish, of
CJ?
course, to incorporate, if
Okay lang ako,
possible,
Diyos.
in our committee report
narinig
that we
kita,
give
narinig
emphasis
kita.
to the real mandate to the SRA.
Malinaw ba ako?
That is the promotion of sugar planters' co-efficiency. Perhaps if we invite the attention of the SRA to their real mandate, we
Naririnig ka
will
namin
be
ni
able to
CJ,
do
pero
away
hindi mo kami
with the
naririnig.
need for importation. And second, Mr. Serafica mentioned about the budget for research and consultation for 2021. It is 155 million, if I am correct.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. I want to give emphasis to the significance of the data that we are gathering. And this leads me to the
Nawawala si Sir
question,
Jun. Ako
how
ba
are
sobrang
we
delay
certain
ako?
that the
Hindi
data
naman.
we are gathering are really accurate? Because these are very important as they provide basis on whether or not we need to import or otherwise.
Kasi ano lang ako
May
eh,
I answer that, Madam Chair?
Yes,
ano ako dun
Mr.
sa
Engineer
data, sa mobile
Serapica,
data,
you are
dahil wala kaming
recognized.
kuryente,
On a weekly
naka-flashlight
basis,
lang din
Your
ako.
Honor, all the sugar mills and the
Hindi
refineries,
ko na
they
narinig
submit
yung
on a
live.
weekly
Kanina
basis their
rinig ko
production data on a weekly basis. And then the SRA consolidates all this data before uploading them to the website. So this is a real data from the refiners and the millers. And before the end of the crop year, should there be
Isa
any
po muna siguro yung
discrepancies
sa live or
that
pwede
will
bang
be
iba mag-live
corrected,
yan? Or kapag
Your
pa
Honor?
in-exit mo yan, mawawala yung
During the
live?
interpellation of Congressman Marcoleta, you mentioned about
Dahil
the
ikaw lang mag-isa
withdrawal from the
naka-stream,
sugar
no?
mills. And then now you're mentioning about the data from
Alfie, baka pwede
the
stop mo na lang muna pagka
producers and
tapos
millers.
na lang
It
ituloy
appears
ulit.
that
Kasi
we've
may
been
show.
hearing a lot of data and figures about the supply and demand. My only concern is I hope we can come up with a more tedious process of data gathering so we can intelligently arrive on the data of supply and demand, which will definitely guide us on our decision whether to pursue with the importation or otherwise. That is all, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman Luis Cho. I'd like to give space to our colleague, Congressman P.D. Berzaga. Then I'll just have a few questions for BOC. Then we will be coming up for adjournment.
Well, we want to clarify something because it seems that everybody is confused. Sugar order number 4 was issued because according to SRA, particularly the members of the board, what is needed is 300,000 metric tons of sugar. Is that correct?
That's correct, Your Honor.
What about you, Sebastian?
That is correct,
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
And as a matter of fact, during our hearing today, you are still insisting that the volume to be imported should be 300,000 metric tons or even more.
Only 300,000
Or
metric tons.
300,000 metric tons. However, the secretary, who happens to be the president, after consulting with the stakeholders, has decided that the importation should only be 150,000 tons. Do you want to make the impression before us that the secretary was wrong and was receiving the wrong data coming from all other persons?
Your Honor. No.
Francis,
Your Honor, what I'm trying to say, the facts of the 300,000 metric tons is based on the confirmed data submitted by the stakeholders in that after that July 29 stakeholders meeting.
do you
Your
want to create the impression before the public and before us that the Secretary of Agriculture was not correct or was acting under the wrong premise na 150 lamang ang kailangan?
I am not insinuating that, Your Honor.
But you are insisting right now, 300,000. Next question. Of course, you are insisting or your position na tama yung 300. Is it correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Was your resignation voluntarily or were you pressured to resign?
It was my own voluntary decision, Your Honor.
If it is your voluntary decision, bakit hindi mo pinaglaban sa ating Pangulo na kinakailangan natin ay 300,000 metric tons, not 150,000? Kaya ako ay hindi magre-resign at paglalaban ko yan.
I felt during that time, Your Honor, I breached his trust and confidence on me.
So in other words, you felt that the President did not have trust and confidence to you.
That's correct, Your Honor.
And perhaps the President did not have
Ay,
trust and
nako,
confidence
budget
with you
na ako.
because the President did not believe that 300,000 metric tons would be necessary for importation.
I cannot read his mind, Your Honor.
You cannot read his mind. but you did not ask what is in his mind. Well, another thing, according to you, you were able to violate the normal procedures because there was already a loss of trust insofar as your leadership in SRA is concerned.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. At ang sabi mo nga, merong
Ma,
nag-aasim na
tawagan mo
OIC.
daw si Tito Tonet.
Yes, Your Honor.
And who was that OIC?
Deputy Administrator Ignacio Santillana, Your Honor.
Ignacio.
Santillana,
And what is his position right now?
Deputy Administrator for Research, Development, and Extension.
Did you tell to him that under the existing memorandums coming from the president, he is guilty of usurpation of pure authority, considering that you consider yourself as a holdover officer?
I did not ask him that, and we never met since that time, Your Honor.
Naku, parang
No, but
sobrang
you can
dilim
text
po
him.
si Gino.
You are part
Alatang
of the
brown
office.
out.
Wala ka
Ganun
namang
din.
ginawa. Pagkatapos, ang ginawa mo lamang, oy, hindi na namin kayo sasama sapagkat ayaw niyo man akong kilalanin. But you did not insist on your right.
I knew my position then, Your Honor. but-
Okay, so sa madaling sabi, kung may loss of trust na sa iyo, ang pakiramdam mo, you can disregard the rules and the procedures.
That was not my intention, Your
Oh,
Honor.
but you disregarded. Oh, yes. Under the existing memorandum. So, the rule. For the next scheduled hearing, I would be requesting Attorney Tihada.
Pwede magtanong.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Congressman P.D. Barzaga. Now let's call on, of course, our chairman of the Ways and Means, Congressman Joey Salceda.
Saan galing yung asukal? Abas. Oo. Saan galing? Oo. Thailand. Magkano yung taripa niyan?
Hold on. May we request them to, do you have a mic? Maybe ask the ComSec to bring them a mic so they could be heard by everybody. And mention your name again. So,
He's
Sorry,
the most
ah.
important man in customs.
oh,
Ayaw mo? Siya na lang? Sige, ikaw na lang.
Yung sa Thailand, sir, that we saw in the raids that we did, no?
Opo.
So far, sa mga 3 warehouses. But they numbered just around mga 150 to mga 150 bags.
May nakalagay na presyo, wala.
Wala, sir, eh.
Magkano ba dapat ang taripa nun?
Magkano taripa ng 40?
Ito naman, matik yan, atiga yan, di zero.
Sa Thailand.
Ay, nako.
Kinakabahan kami, sir. Sir, zero, sir.
So, paano magkakaroon ng smuggling kung wala naman taripa?
Yung sir, out of
May 5% ba?
hindi, sir, pag alimbawa mag-smuggle sila, may 5%.
May 5% pag
sir.
smuggle?
Hindi, sir. Yan yung sir, yan yung tariff under sa Atiga.
Under Atiga?
Yes, sir. Yung sir,
Under Atiga, is it 5 or 0?
Sir, baka in 2022 mo na-change na, baka 0. But for 2017 kasi 5%.
It's,
excuse me, can you use, yeah,
Sir, we're looking at the 2017 AHTN. It's still 5%, but we'll check, sir, the 2022 AHTN. If the Atiga rate has been
kung
changed from
MFN,
5% to 0%.
ang pinanggalingan, magkano?
50 per quota, sir, 50%, and then out quota is 65, so 50-65.
So, ang pagiging smuggling niyan, so hindi siya smuggle. Wala lang siyang permiso sa SRA. Ano?
sir,
So,
houses that ni-raid namin, the deputy administrator of SRA was there, and they said that by the violation might be kasi lang siya if under ISO 3 dapat sa mga industrial users na siya. So these were found
pare-pares maasukal yan. Ano ka ba?
nakita sila
Ano
sir, sa,
kinaibahan nun?
nakita
Yung isa
sila sa
may
traders.
triangle, yung isa may bilog, yung ganon.
yes sir, one
Ano ba
violation,
meron?
what violation could
Kinaibahan ng
be-
mga yan.
one violation
Ano
could
ba
be-
ABCDE? Hindi ko maintindihan.
One violation could be it was purchased from an industrial user.
Oh, the only violation I can see is they were not permitted by SRA. Because in this country, the only QR is determined by SRA. Tama ba?
Yes, sir.
So that's the only violation. So may violation ba o wala?
So chinek namin sa isa-isa, walang ano eh. Walang
Eh kasi kung anik-anik na pinag-uusapan nyo eh. Eh simple lang naman, binigyan ba nila ng QR o hindi?
yung mga items that tiningnan namin, sir, wala, sir.
Walang, so
import permit.
akala ko ba may 03 pa to?
Yung sa Subic yun. Meron.
Yung sa Subic, sir, there is a clearance to that. We already
Oh,
certified.
meron. So hindi yan smuggle.
In Pampanga, sir, that was some are local. The imported ones were still verifying because as per our initial record, they are not an industrial
Tanggalin
sir.
nyo na nga yung mga ABCD na yan. Ano ka? Saan ka? Sa
SRA, sir.
SRA?
Yes, sir.
Mayroon pa bang ano? May silbi pa ba yung mga ABCD na yan?
It's in our charter,
Bakit?
Your Honor.
Magkakaiba mga ano yan?
It's only for the Kedaning ratio, Your Honor.
Ano yan? 15% broken? 10% broken? Ano ba yan?
No, sir. It would represent the supply that we want.
Di ba
to-
fungible yan?
No, sir. It's only
I don't
the
know why
Kedaning.
fungible products should be
Yeah.
classified.
Yes, sir. It's Kedaning only, Your Honor.
Do you consider, sir, that these products are fungible anyway? You have to keep making all these, discretionary classification? For what? For what purpose do you maintain those things?
Well,
Because it's a law
that's why
or it's a treaty?
I think it's a law.
I think it's a treaty, sir.
Mhm.
Anyway, and then,
For purposes of the stakeholders, Kedaning is important at this point for their production. So let's say, for example, if the SRA policy for this crop year will be all domestic, meaning all Kedans will be B sugar. So everybody will be a B Kedan holder. Each farmer will have a Kedan issued to his name.
a
And
farmer, can you
Or a
define
mills.
farmer? Planter, farmer,
Planter.
refiner, miller.
a planter is, he brings.
So you're talking about the farmer here is a planter,
Yes, po.
like you. Who is the representative of the planters here? Somebody said he is a planter. Okay. You are, sir.
Raymond Montinola.
Yeah, Montinola. So milling, that's very expensive, triple than India. Sir, I have the data.
So you mean to
I will
say,
not- Yes, sir. I'm
Yes.
telling you, it came from a Baines report. Would you like me to get the report?
May we request you could probably join us now kasi punong-puno kami, Chairman,
Sorry,
kanina.
no,
Sorry,
I'm just, ma'am, ano ko lang kasi na, may balik natin sa tama na hindi man to smuggling, hindi naman to ano. Sir, I can give you the study. No, I'd rather sit down under the leadership. Hindi sa ayaw ko sa iyo, ha. Dito na lang sa Committee on Agriculture, because I think sugar has a future. I can tell you that there are new product lines that essentially. And last question ko na, sir, bakit hindi na lang pinag-import ng high fructose ang mga Coke?
Well, unang-una po,
12 pesos.
yes, yung taxes nila po. At saka they have already calibrated their plants using refined sugar. And they will have to spend.
So may
again.
calibration pala yan.
Yes po. they have to make adjustments to their machineries, and that is expensive.
Anyway, Mr. Chair, I don't know, at a certain point, I think we have to file a resolution looking into the viability of the sugar industry of the Philippines. So we will understand where this whole controversy, what is the total context with which. So para naman we are affirmative in our approach in Congress, in that we are a positive input. Hindi yung parang asip ginigisa namin kayo or something, but we'd rather be here to help you, especially modernizing our milling industry. Anyway, thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, and I agree with that, to modernizing the industry, the milling industry, because that is also the goal of the president. Okay, so thank you so much, Congressman Joey Salceda. Now let's go on with Congressman, we have Yoyet Ferrer. Ferrer is on Zoom. She would like to ask something. Kong Ferrer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to follow up the question of Congressman Yulo about the performance bond. I did not hear the answer of Mr. Serafica as to why this was deleted in Sugar Order number 4. Can you repeat that part po?
Mr. Serafica, you are recognized again for the query of Congresswoman Ferrer.
I said the performance bond was not incorporated in SO4.
Why? Why, Madam Chair? Why?
To make it a lesser cost for the importers, Your Honor.
But isn't this to protect the government also in case there is a problem?
SRA can always go after these violators of the sugar order, Your Honor.
With regards to Sugar Order number 4, this was not authorized by the Secretary of Agriculture, who happens to be our president also. So again, I would like to follow up the question of my colleagues as to why you had the courage to issue the sugar order despite the lack of authority from the Secretary of Agriculture and the President of the Philippines.
Engineer Serafica, would you like to answer that?
I had the impression, Madam Chair, that everything was in order, considering the urgency of the matter.
When you say urgency, isn't it true that we still have 127,000 metric tons in the bodegas from Sugar Order number 3, or the exact figure is around that much? So why was the urgency? How urgent was it that you could not even wait for the president to give the instructions or give the go signal?
It was so urgent, Your Honor, that we will be running out of sugar by the end of August. And all the sugar under SO3 is limited only to the industrial companies. That cannot be sold or transferred to the domestic market. That will be for their exclusive use on their products, Your Honor.
So when you say urgency, you could not even wait for the approval of Malacanang or from the president?
I was under the impression that everything is ready to go, Your Honor.
What gave you that impression, Mr. Serafica?
I consulted the Undersecretary Sebastian on this matter, and he likewise gave the instructions to proceed and endorse the matter to the Sugar Board for referendum.
As my colleagues said, parang kayo, sabi yata ni Congressman Suarez na parang kayo-kayo lang yata ang nag-decide noon dahil hindi naman napirmahan ng other directors, or what you call them, yung mga tao under sa inyo po who are usually signing this.
All the members of the Sugar Board, Your Honor, signed. Myself, the 2 board members, Attorney Beltran, and board member, former board member Valderrama, Your Honor.
So it seems that all of you signed without the authority or the approval of the president. Yun lang po, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I would like to ask questions again sa susunod po na hearing.
Okay, thank you so much, Congresswoman Yoyet Ferrer. I would like to recognize Congressman P.D. Barzaga for another request.
No, I will just be requesting the submission of the documents which I consider would be necessary in order that we can thoroughly analyze the issues subject matter of our investigation. So to Attorney Tihida, can you provide this committee a listing of all the corporations for which an import permit or license was issued pursuant to Sugar Order number 3?
Yes, Your Honor. We will
Okay.
do that, Your Honor.
Second question. Can you also provide the listing of the warehouses where the sugar under Sugar Order number 3 will be stocked?
We can provide as well those who already stuck there, Your Honor.
And you could also explain during the next hearing why there is a period not coming May, but there is no limitation as to the end.
As far as SO3 is concerned, I shall explain, Your Honor, as far as I can
Okay.
explain.
And finally, to the Bureau of Customs, is it a correct appreciation that any imported sugar should pass the Bureau of Customs? Yes. And could you please give us, based on your data, ano-ano ba yung imported sugar under Sugar Order number 3 na dumaan sa customs? Together with the name of the importer, together with the name of the broker, together with all the permits and clearances, including the payments, including the approval of the sugar SRA. Di ba? Pinapipirma nila. Pinapipirma nyo. Pag wala silang signature, wala. Hindi nyo i-release. Together with the location of the warehouses. What else? And of course, the inventory right now, if you have none. Attorney Tihada, yung inventory, may kopya kayo?
On SO3, yes, Your Honor.
Oh, you can monitor kung gaano karami na ang nasa merkado at kung gaano karami pa ang naka-stock sa kanila.
We can monitor not in the markets, but their utilization, Mr. Chair.
Here, utilization.
Yes, we can. We have that at present. We'll just submit, Your Honor.
Okay. Please submit us those documents ahead of our hearing next time.
We will do that, Your Honor.
Thank you so much, Congressman P.D. Barzaga. Then I'd like to acknowledge Congressman Tony Petalbano for another query.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Just as a simple follow-up, no, there was no question being asked with the Bureau of Customs. If I may, I'd like to know lang how many cases have you filed with the existing apprehensions for importation for sugar, and how many have you won, and what are the pending cases, and if you could submit to this committee, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sir, we don't have the exact figure now, but we'll submit this data, sir, during the next committee hearing.
To your recollection, kahit isa ba, meron na ba kayong napakulong?
Sa bigas, meron.
Sugar, muna tayo. Sa bigas, pagkakaroon tayo ng meeting yan with the Department of Agriculture. But kahit sa bigas, siguro. Pero sa sugar, meron na ba kayong napakulong na cases?
Sir, to the best
The
of our
syndicates.
recollection, sir, most of the cases are pending with the trial courts as well as the Department of Justice. But we have to double check with our legal service if decisions have already been issued for these criminal cases that we filed.
Right, this is important because the core of the matter, maybe these same syndicates are still working with the offices that are involved, no? And so we would like to ask, together with Congressman P.D. Barzaga, is asking that if you give us the pertinent cases that are pending with the Bureau of Customs regarding all this, of course, no, illegal sugar that were imported and you've confiscated. I submit to Madam Chair.
Thank you so much, Congressman Tony Petalbano. Then You have to submit. Okay. I just have several questions for the BOC para at least you know naman we are here to of course to lay down everything. So we're here to lay down everything. Mr. De Buco, you understand that BOC's policy should be to protect, no, and enhance government revenues. Sa inyo kami umaasa, no, para mas lalo na sa higit na may mga pandemyang ganito. Institute for fair and transparent customs and tariff management that will efficiently facilitate international trade, prevent and curtail any form of customs fraud and illegal acts, and modernize customs and tariff administration under the CMTA. Is it correct?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. In line with the SO number 3 or SO number 4, no? Dahil talaga namang kansiladong SO number 4, ang SRA ba ay nanghingi sa inyo ng pag may mga importation ba ganito, nagko-coordinate sila sa inyo?
Yes po. Actually, before arrival, we ask for them the list of mga importations that have clearance with them.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
So meron kayong listahan ng mga previous importers nila?
Yes po.
Okay. Can you bring that on the next meeting?
Yes.
All right. Okay, yung mga dokumento kayo din na nagpo-proseso? Okay, ang customs din. Okay. So, kung meron mga ganito pang mga problema sa SRA, sila ba ay talagang dumudulog sa inyo o nagbi-meeting kayo kasama ng kanilang mga importers o kayo lamang?
Well, actually, meron kaming memorandum of understanding with SRA na dati nang nagawa, and we are in close coordination po, ma'am, with the SRA. Actually, former Administrator Sra Parameters, we regularly text each other po.
Okay. There's a question coming from Congressman P.D. Versaga.
Not a question. Additional document, could you furnish us a copy of that memorandum of understanding between you and SRA? And secondly, when you presented documents to us regarding importation, could you indicate what was the port of entry?
Yes,
Manila, Subic, or any other port in the Philippines?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. The
Okay.
porter
Yes.
and the consignee plus the broker.
Yes po.
And the Bureau of Customs Signatory. Yes, they will be presenting those.
And
documents.
also, are you, okay, thank you so much, Congressman PD. Are you aware of any incident in the BOC that caused illegal importation nung panahon, ilang taon na po kayo sa Bureau?
Ako po 20 na po.
20?
Mm.
Kayo po, sir?
Almost 5 years.
Okay, so meron bang mga insidente na nakakaroon ng problema sa importation ng sugar? O ngayon lamang?
There were attempts before of smuggling. In fact,
Okay.
some are using the economic zones.
Okay, can you give it to us also? When you submit your,
Previous.
oh yes, previous lang, just to check
Yes.
also. Can you, considering SO number 3, can you propose any measures yung sa mga kaninang mga narinig nyo before we adjourn para at least medyo maganda naman yung pag-aantay nyo sa amin, no? Can you propose any measures na gusto nyo isabatas pa namin para makatulong kami sa inyo?
Yes, actually yung latest na recommendation ni Chairman Salcedo, ma'am, doon sa kung pwede yung mga industrial users na lang ipagamit sa kanila yung mga fructose para hindi na commingle.
Oo.
Ang commingling kasi ang isa sa mga mahirap talaga ay
Kasi mine is to separate eh. I
Yes.
have a recommendation to separate. So sa inyo, hindi okay din sa inyo yun?
Opo, ma'am.
Okay, so
To
by
avoid
next,
the commingling po.
okay, commingling. So ganun din kasi yung aking pinopropose na bill, na batas para magkaroon tayo talaga ng identification and all para hindi ma-avoid. Okay. So sa ating pong lahat na nandito ngayon, I'd like to very last na po ito. We have Chairman Mark and Verga to
Yes, thank you,
Yeah.
Madam Chair. Just brief clarification lang. SRA, your monitoring is limited only to importations. Baka you can enlighten us dun sa system ninyo with regards to monitoring
No, sir. We have regular monitoring even without importation, both in the mill, withdrawals, and our traders. They submit also regularly traders' activities, and we monitor the movement of sugar if it is raw and refined also through the sugar monitoring system or SMS of the regulation department.
So attorney, even if it's in the trader's hands already, medyo namamonitor pa natin yun.
Yes, sir, because if they move the sugar, they need to secure shipping permits from SRA. Also, they must report under the pain of penalty their traders' activity report on a semi-annual basis.
Thank you for that. But how do you work with DTI? Is there a mechanism ba between you two? Kasi ASEC, baka we could invite you here. Baka you could just also help us out. How do you coordinate with SRA? Para maintindihan lang po namin.
With SRA, sir, we don't have very active collaboration with them, but with the Department of Agriculture, we do. With respect to the monitoring, for instance, of prices.
So even for sugar, ma'am, it goes straight to DA. Wala po ng SRA. Wouldn't it better if any relationship with SRA as far as monitoring also?
Because under the Price Act, it's the Department of Agriculture, which is the implementing agency. So it is under the DA where sugar is monitored. So that's why as the other implementing agency, DTI, DOH, the DENR, dun po kami nagko-coordinate under the Price Act.
So Attorney Tejeda,
Sir.
nare-relay po naman lahat sa inyo.
Yes, sir. We are active in the Bantay Presyo Task Force where we also work with the DTI. And in fact, it's, as far as SO3 is concerned, this matter of SO3 was exhaustively discussed with the DTI and the NEDA before the Sugar Board came up with SO3.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that I could get recommendations from the Department of Trade and Industry, the DA, the stakeholders, how we could also improve our coordination amongst each other so we can monitor. Kasi ang hirap walang makasagot nung mga tanong na may shortage ba? Hindi, nasa warehouse, sasabihin ng iba. So I hope that we could set a mechanism wherein we could easily pinpoint if there is such a shortage of sugar o wala. So anyway, will depend on your inputs on that. And then lastly, Mr. Lobregat, on the side of the millers, is there any recommendations, or at least you could brief us on your end on how you think how the sugar spike has happened or affected us?
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much for the little time we have left. I've been here since 7 o'clock this morning. I have a very short presentation, which I think would have answered a lot of questions that you have today. Some are very simple. It's really out in the open, right? So I don't know if you have the slides and the sorry. I don't know if you have the slides for my presentation.
May we ask the ComSec if but Mr. Lobregat, baka briefly you could run through the presentation.
Okay, the slides are important for everybody to understand. In fact, I've taken the liberty of, for example, when I present my facts, I do not distinguish anymore between raw and refined, right? It's that's the first one. Can we have the first slide? Next. Okay, this is the first slide. So let me go very briefly. Okay, this chart shows sugar production for the last 25 years. Our country has been self-sufficient with sugar except for a few occasional crop years that were affected by extreme weather events. At the turn of the century, year 2000, production improved through the introduction of new cane varieties developed by Philsurin, a private research arm of the sugar industry. As you know, sugar production is sensitive to extreme weather conditions, also known as climate change. This was the primary reason for the drop in production for the current crop. Tremendous rainfall, lower radiation equal less sugar. For the crop year 21-22, our production was about 1.8 million tons, which is the lowest record in the country for the last 22 years. Before the year 2000, there were years that were lower, but you can see that the production of 2022 is much lower than the previous year, right? Ever since I can remember, sugar production always exceeded local demand. In fact, the Philippines was a reliable exporter of for sugar for many decades. But in the year 2014, 2015, it started to show that production could not keep up with our population. Next slide, please. Here you see the red line is the demand, the green line is production. So the further years back, you can see that the green has always been above the red. But in 2015, it evened out, and the next succeeding years, there has always been a need to import, where the red line is higher than the green. Look at the green line for 2022, right? There's a huge gap between production and demand, right? Next slide, please. Sugar consumption. Our sugar consumption in the year 2000 was, I can't really tell you the figure, but it's that low. And then it went up. If you see that dip, that is when high fructose corn sugar started to come in. And to protect the sugar industry, the excise tax for HFCS was doubled over what it was for sugar, right? HFCS is a very unhealthy product for your liver. You can read about it, but I'm not gonna send. Anyway, in the year 2000, there were 75 million Filipinos. In year 22, we are estimated at 110 million. That's an increase of 47%. The difficulty in achieving optimum efficiency of a plantation crop like sugarcane started to become obvious. Next slide, please. This thin red line that you see is the ideal amount of sugar that should be around at the end of the crop, every August 31st. The ideal level is between 400,000 to 500,000 tons. As you can see, at the end of 2021, we had about 462,000. In the year, at the start of the year of last year, it was predicted that the crop was going to have a supply of a total of 2.56 million tons. This was adding the estimated 2.99 million plus the 462 that you see in the graph as the carryover. Next slide, please. This shows you what happened in crop year 21-22. Okay. The orange line is the 5-year average. The blue line is what happened last year. And you can see that the blue line started to go up in the beginning, but Typhoon Odette hit, right? And after Typhoon Odette hit, it tried to recover, but it never really caught up. And production slowly fell and finished much earlier. The following events started to change the picture. Just as sugar refineries were starting operations, Typhoon Odette hit the country in December 16, 2021. Harvesting, milling, and refining in most parts of Negros was brought to a halt. There was extensive crop damage and flooding in some sugar areas. Mills and refineries also suffered, some more than others. It did not help that La Nina continued unabated in the succeeding months after Odette. And quite frankly, La Nina is still around. It took several weeks for some milling operations to resume, while other mills were able to continue intermittently and at a very slow pace. In time, it was assessed that the supply of refined sugar was dropping, and to ensure its availability, sugar order number 3 was issued on February 2, allowing the importation of 200,000 metric tons of refined grade. However, cases were filed in Negros to declare SO3 null and void, which is a normal case by planters. They are allergic to importations because they have the impression that it will always bring down prices, right? This delayed the imported sugar entry by 3 months. Next slide, please. Here I prepared a slide to show how prices reacted. At the beginning of the year, 53 pesos was the price of refined, 45 was raw. Then Odette hit in December. Sugar order, even before sugar order 3 was issued, you can see that the price of refined was already going up. Why? Because 3 refineries were not producing, right? Raw started to go up not as fast as refined because raw was still coming out, but refined was suffering because of the damaged refineries. And this is why the sugar order number 3 specifically put refined sugar for industrials that were already panicking, right? By the time sugar order number 3 arrived in late May and June, the price graph you can see is already up. Now, I've been ad-libbing, but anyway, you have my report. The uncertainty of SO3's imported sugar arrival led industrial users to buy aggressively whatever domestic sugar was available. A perfect storm was upon us, right? These were things beyond our control. By the end of May, it was obvious that the production for 21-22 was going to miss its target by a huge margin. It did not help that a government in transition also, if you want to call it a temporary paralysis, happened after election. Something like this happened in SRA. Some parties felt that they were in charge, while others said no. And until it was resolved at the end of June, nobody was moving. Nobody wanted to sign anything, right? Sugar stakeholders were again consulted after this for sugar order number 4, but that came a little too late, right? It is estimated, next slide please. We go back to ending inventories. Look at the ending inventory of August of this year. It is way below that red line. And if you wanted an explanation, a clearer, I cannot provide a clearer explanation, okay, to show that how much is needed just to get to that buffer stock, right? And it's only going to get bigger. It is estimated by the SRA that by the end of August 2022, the remaining sugar in the country will be 140,000 metric tons, way below the ideal thin red line that would have kept the market calm. This also means that there will be insignificant inventories of sugar until the harvest of the new crop comes online. In closing, these are events that led us to where we are today, only to be reminded that just as water seeks the lowest level, you cannot go against the law of supply and demand. Hoarding and smuggling are symptoms, not causes of a supply deficit, right? These events of 21-22 are but a big warning, and we must prepare a strategy to attain food self-sufficiency, because food might not just be available from our regular supply chains. This is a very serious matter. I'm surprised that we spent half a day talking about the legalities of whether a sugar order was legal or not. It was well within the president's prerogative to cancel it. He might have had a different set of information. I don't know who provided.
Mr. Lobregat, may I say
Yes.
something? Because you're in the good government public accountability.
Yes.
And we are on the next phase of it, we have the agriculture chairman will be discussing it. So we are actually on the phase that we just wanted to prove something, that something went wrong with that SO4. I hope you
Which
understand.
I
We already did that, Mr. Lobregat, the first briefing po. And we appreciate very much. I hope, because we get insulted when you say that. You don't understand that we
No, I
we have a half day of discussing the prerogative of the president. I hope you understand where we're coming from. We're
I
just doing
understand.
our job.
I beg your pardon, Mrs. Chairman. Okay.
Sorry.
I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's accepted.
Thank you. Lastly, if people want to get any information, the SRA publishes this weekly. And today, in this last one, you can see what is the remaining sugar there is and where it is. I'm surprised that the SRA has not furnished you a copy of this.
Yeah.
We actually have all of those coming from, we had a briefer to all.
Look at this is a sugar production bulletin.
Okay, I don't think we have that. So I think we do need to get a
Anyway,
copy.
we will be
Yeah.
having
I think it's
another
available
meeting.
online. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is it?
We will furnish you, sir, if you want.
Yes, please, attorney. Thank you. Just a follow-up question, Mr. Lobregat.
Yes.
Where would you attribute the spike in demand coming from? Industry or household? Both?
Demand has been slowly going up. I would say it's about 2.4.
Is it industry driven, the demand? Or-
I would say today half is industrial use and half is stable use. I mean,
Okay.
like restaurants and household.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lobregat. Thank you, Madam
Thank
Chair.
you.
Yes, Mr. Chair, just a follow-up in connection to what our chairwoman has said. The Public Good Governance Committee is the blue ribbon committee of the House of Representatives, and therefore we investigated this case of SRO number 4, motu proprio, because we want to see if there's malfeasance involved, and that if there are officials that are involved in any corrupt activities, knowing that the president has stopped this for a certain reason, then we need to investigate, and this is a powers of Congress in this committee itself. It just so happens that it is a joint committee between the chair for agriculture and of course our public good governance. So again, we do need to investigate this. We need to go forward, and then I would like to ask as a follow-up all the departments here, including our good friend here, Mr. Pablo Lobregat from the Philippine Sugar Millers Association, if you know of all of your pending cases that are lodged in your department, especially those blacklisted importers, we'd appreciate, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair, for you to please present to this committee the list of those you have already blacklisted, knowing that maybe in some cases, these certain traders have changed their names, but they have the same directors. So if they can actually submit those papers to us, we would like that from the BOC, the Department of Agriculture, even DTI, you have blacklisted the companies that usually have pending cases or certain companies that should not be dealing with especially specifically for SRA. Madam Chair, please submit.
Thank you so much, Congressman Tony Pet Albano. Before we end, and of course, I'd like to acknowledge the attendance of the following members of the House. They were here a while ago. It is proper for me to thank them for joining us. Congressman Joseph Gilbert Villago, Congressman Joey Salceda, Congressman Representative Velasco, and via Zoom we have Representative Arnold Teves, Jose Pajernos, Congressman Adrian Amatong, Congressman Eddie Bong Plaza, Congressman Ralph Tulfo, Congressman Edward Mazeda, and of course, I'd like to stand corrected for the name, Congressman Jose Padernos. Thank you so much. Mr. Chair, would you like to add some more?
Yes, housekeeping matter, Madam Chair. May I include the Honorable Eskimo Estrella as being present in our previous meeting, August 15. August 15.
August 15, for
Wala po
correction.
sa minutes, so may I request that he be added as he attended to correct the minutes.
Yes, may we
As he
request our
attended.
committee secretariat to do some addendum and of course change whatever is missing. Again, to all of us, as there are other members who would like to register for interpolation or wala na talaga interpolation, are there any matters for the joint
Madam
committee to take up?
Chairwoman, Madam Chairperson, Mark, it was a pleasure having this committee, joint committee. And I think you guys did a good job. We would like to just encourage most of you, especially the invited guests, to bear with us because it's really a hard process and it's a lengthy process. Without other interpolators, Madam Chair and Mr. Chairman, I would like to move for the adjournment of this session.
Kong Lee?
Yeah, second the motion.
Before we adjourn, may I remind the resource speakers to comply with the required submissions of other position papers. The meeting is now adjourned. On the part
Yeah.
of agriculture,
On the part of the Committee on Agriculture and Food, this meeting is hereby adjourned.
thank you so much, everyone.